Hiya, I'm Jasper, and welcome to a video review for It Takes Two. It's a video game starring people that came out on several different consoles and eventually made its way to the Switch. I played it on the Switch. So, as always, I'm going to give you the good, the bad, and the furry. I'm not going to start with the furry because I feel like it gets into spoiler territory. So, moving on to the good and the bad. This is a really, really fun video game. What I will start off by telling you is that as the title suggests, it does take two. And it takes two to the point where there is no computer controlled companion, so you have to have two people to play this game. It straight up won't let you play at all, period dot, unless you have two people. But you only have to buy one copy of the game. So what you can do is just buy a copy of the game, and then whoever the other person is, and if you're using the Nintendo Switch like I did, you have the other person go to the Nintendo store and get the free download, and then all they have to do is there's a variety of ways you can actually connect, but you can just see the list and basically connect and play that way. So they don't have to have a copy of the game, but you do have to have two people to play. And this game is absolutely fantastic. It was a lot of fun to play. It reminded me a little bit of Little Big Planet in terms of how Little Big Planet 2, especially, you had different power-ups and different things that kind of ended up being level specific. There's a bit of that going on with the items that you each get, but it also had a little bit of the like Super Mario 3D World thing where you have, the world that you're exploring for the most part is 3D. But what I liked is that it was a very low stress game because you don't have to worry about lives. So if you die, like if you jump somewhere and then you splat or you disappear or whatever, then you just reappear next to the other person. And even if you both splat or go somewhere or get hit by lasers or something that kills your character, you immediately just reappear at the most recent spot. And you don't even go back to the nearest checkpoint. The only time that your death even matters is during certain boss fights. Pretty much anytime you're at a boss fight, if you both die, then you will go back to the latest checkpoint. And usually in boss fights, there's one or two checkpoints anyway, so you're not going to go all the way back to the beginning. You have to get them all the way down. But that's basically the only time. And that's only if you both die. If one of you dies, like you get hit by a branch or something, you can rapidly click X to reappear faster, but even without that, you just eventually reappear. And as long as the other character doesn't die, then you both can continue on fighting the boss. So I really like that aspect of it because, some of the times you get more concerned about getting something done or accomplishing it or going through or making sure that you do the thing only the right way the first time as soon as possible because you don't want to have to worry about dying and running out of lives and then going all the way back to the beginning of the level or losing all your progress or whatever else. And this was just a much more enjoyable game in my opinion because lives didn't matter. You didn't have to worry about getting reset. There was just enough with those boss battles where okay, I'm going to have to redo this part of the boss battle if we don't figure out what we need to do together. So that was a lot of fun. And I think that I hope more games adopt that sort of aspect. I think that it was an even better implementation of the Super Mario 3D World thing where if you fail enough times then they'll start giving you super power-ups. I think that this was an even better implementation of that. You didn't get super power-ups in this game, but you also didn't have to actually worry about lives. And that is also integrated into the story. So essentially the storyline is that there's this married couple and things haven't been working out for them for a while. They have a kid. They both love the kid, but things are just not working out between them, so they've decided to get a divorce. And the kid finds out about this inadvertently and is very sad about it and wishes that she has little dolls that she has that represent her parents, and she says something wishy. I don't remember what, it happens right at the beginning. You'll see. And so her parents have magically been transported into these tiny little doll things, and then it's their journey to make their way back to her to try and get the wish undone. And that's just a very basic summary of the story. I think that there's a lot of heart in this, and there's a lot of really fun interactions between the two. This game, in my opinion, is one of the ones where I think it's worth having the audio and the dialogue and the music and everything else actually on and listening to it while playing, because I think that's a lot of the enjoyment from this game comes with the interaction between the two. And what's nice is, if you remember how I said if your death doesn't matter, it still doesn't. Like, if one of your characters, like, if you're doing something along and one of your characters ends up dying while they're in the middle of a dialogue thing, cuts that dialogue off. But as soon as your character comes back, it, like, starts the line over and says it, which I really appreciate, because I would hate if there was some interesting bit of dialogue between the two that we just never get because one of your characters happens to die at the wrong time. And you don't have to worry about that in this game. What I will say is that the graphics, especially of, like, the humans, was rough. Like, they had the I don't know, picture of the person on there, but, like, the hair was just big clumps. It's been a while since I've played a 90s game, but it felt like almost 90s graphics bad. But again, I played this on the Switch, so on the PS5 it might have looked like you were looking at a real person doing things. I don't know, but on the Switch, it chugs along. And along those lines, there were a few times where the frame rate and just the speed and everything just like hemorrhaged. The connection that we were using was rock solid the whole time, and so it wasn't like a disconnect between our connections in terms of, like, the capability. There was a couple times where the thing just, the Nintendo Switches were just like, nope, connection was lost, go back. That happened a couple of times. Nothing wrong with the connection that we were using, so it's just a game glitching or just chugging with the fact that they were trying to fit this that I think it's on PS5 and those type of systems onto a Nintendo Switch. So there's probably some graphical things that were sacrificed, and there were a few times where the frame rate got so bad and things got so jagged that, like, it killed us a couple times. But again, it didn't super piss me off or really matter, because you just go back to the nearest ledge and then you can continue on. And usually it was, like, kind of in the same spot, so you just kind of had to figure that out. But it only happened a few times, enough where I wanted to point out that during some of the really particle and event intensive things, there might be that, but overall, I don't think there was enough of them to prevent me from wanting to play this game again. And that's one of the fun things, is that because It Takes Two, you're having to, like, you each usually have some type of unique thing for you, like, especially right at the beginning, it's just a matter of having both of you, like, one person do one thing, one person do the other, or having you both do the thing in order to progress. But during some parts of it, one of you gets one particular ability, the other one gets the other particular ability, and you have to figure out how to use them together to advance. And so that was fun. And there's a whole bunch of mini games with this. I know that we missed a few, probably a lot of them, but there's a whole bunch of fun mini games. Just a really surprisingly large number of them. Like, for example, you could straight up play chess in this at one point. And if I remember the options correctly, you can just, like, go back to whatever mini games you played and play them again, just from, like, the selection menu. So that was really fun, that, like, you straight up have a chess game that you can play inside of this whole other game. Like, that's great. So yeah, a lot of the mini games were fun, and I also really liked that the controls for your characters were very, very forgiving. I think some of it has to do with, they were like, okay, well, you need to jump and do this thing, and we know that normally your character may fall short, but we're just gonna, like, get you up there, because that's what the story requires. But I never felt like the computer was taking over for me, and it never felt unfair or too helpful in a sense that I didn't like. And in the controls, so there's some aiming things where you have to, like, there's a thing flying around and you have to, like, aim at it. That can be fun, that can be not fun. I think with the style game that we were playing, I didn't want to have to really effort and get super spot on with the aiming. And in the settings, you can control how much assistance there is with that aiming, because it's more about the story and about, like, figuring out the puzzle of what you need to do in order to advance. And so sometimes the puzzle part involves, like, okay, you need to target this thing. And so having the aim assist where you just get kind of close and then you press the thing and it'll latch on, I really like that. I thought it was a good implementation of that to, again, keep it so that it's more about figuring out the puzzles and working together, because it takes two, as a team. I also thought that the length of the game was really good. It didn't get too long. Now, that being said, I would have loved to play, like, if they have It Takes Two more, I would love to play that. But the storyline, I think, helped whenever there was like the activity was like, okay, we've been doing this, but the storyline that was driving it was really fun, and I think really added the enjoyment. And if it had just been like Super Mario levels where you're just like, okay, you go here, and then you go here, and then you go here, into each of the levels in the world, it's like, that's fun, but I like that this thing is extremely story driven. So each new level, chapter, whatever you want to call it, has a point and is driving the story forward while implementing fun mini games and fun ways to force you to cooperate with your other person. So I really like that. I hope that this company, which I guess made this game, also came out with some first person, third person shooter before this one that also took two people to do the things. So I like that with this one, like, you can't have a computer assistant in place of another person. You have to have two actual people playing this game. And I think that's fun because then you can't just rely on, like, well, okay, computer, tell me what to do. I can't figure it out. But I never felt lost for too long because they did have, after a while, they could give you like hint dialogues of like, wow, what if you go over here, May? Or something like that, you know, but it felt natural enough with the characters and how they did it that it didn't felt like, you know, Navi being like, hey, listen. So it was a lot of fun, and I would love to play many more hours of this game, but I did feel like the length of game was definitely worth the money, and the implementation of all the different styles of control. And yeah, so definitely highly recommend this one. It'll give you all the feels, and yeah. So I will get into spoiler territory now because I'm going to go over the furry bits, and the furry bits, especially some of the things I'm going to talk about, are going to spoil story parts. So spoiler alert, spoiler alert. 2 thumbs up for that, for the overall game, in case you didn't get that by now, but spoiler alert. Okay, we're getting into this. So there were some squirrels that were just really fucking quick on the trigger. Like, they immediately wanted to kill them as soon as they were like, no, this thing isn't bad. There was also a bunch of gophers? Moles. There was a shit ton of moles, and it was fun to like have to work around them. They didn't actually say anything, so they were just like animals, but as opposed to the squirrels that had dialogue. And there was also a bee who was very nice, and then like a robot queen bee that had taken over that was, I think, controlled by her, if I remember correctly. So that was a whole thing. And then there was the book. It's not really furry, but he, you know, it's anthropomorphized book, and I loved his accent and how he just, his general demeanor and how he interacted with them was just a hoot every time, slash annoying sometimes. But yeah, definitely fun. And there was also an elephant, and that elephant section is so fucked up. Like, what they did to the elephant, I don't care what their goal was, that is fucked up. That's like if a video game, I don't remember what video game, but I remember there being some controversy about some video game that like had you do a whole bunch of choice things, but then one time your only option was to shoot the dog. Okay, like, that's what this video game does. Like, they are. It's like in Buffy season 6 when Spike, what happens with him and Buffy in that one episode that we're not going to talk about, like that kind of fucked up shit, where you're like, this character can never come back from that. That's what these two do, not relatively early, but like a third of the way into the game. They do some really fucked up shit to this elephant, and I'm just like, oh my god, these are such horrible people. I'm not rooting for them. I don't like them. And like, even when we got to the end of the game, I was like, what they did to that elephant was fucked up. That was fucked up. So, just pretend the elephant scenes don't exist, and I think you will otherwise enjoy this game. But that's all I have for this one. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you at the next one. Bye.